Hello friends, welcome back to my channel Syntax Adda. My name is Ravi, and this is the continuation of the course on JPA and Hibernate. So now let's talk about a few important the concepts here. When we talk about JPA and Hibernate. So what is Hibernate? When you might have heard about this term Hibernate. What does it mean? You know. So Hibernate is a framework. Just remember this. Okay. So this is a framework. What this framework does. So let's say if we have any object, right, and we have the database, how we can think of persisting this data object into the database, or how we can retrieve some information from some table from database to the object, or how we can delete some data from a table, right? How we can modify the data from the table, right? So Hibernate you know is the framework which provides all these features, right? So in Hibernate, you can map this object to the database. Okay. So we can say Hibernate is the framework, right? Mapping object to the database. So generally it handles all low level, we can say SQL query, right? So whatever the low level SQL query will be there, it can handle. Like let's say what all query you can think about, right? You can select something, right, from table, right? The simple query or with some condition. So you can also delete, right, the query. So those query you can write using this framework also at Java layer or application layer. So why we use this framework. So earlier we were using the JDBC, right? JDBC. And in order to connect to the database, we have to write a lot of code, right? First load the driver, right? Get the connection, right? Then a specific query you execute. So all those steps you need to do, right, in the JDBC. They will overhead for a developer for in order to communicate with the database or connecting to the database, right? So generally by using this framework, right, so it has minimized the amount of JDBC code we have to you know develop, right? So it has removed that dependency on JDBC, right? Now we need not to write the JDBC code in order to connect to database. Understood? And this features or this mapping of object from to database, this is called ORM. What is ORM? So ORM is nothing but object to relational mapping. Okay, relational mapping. So why we are calling this one object to relational mapping? Object is nothing but everything in Java is an object, right? That you want to map to the relational. Relational means what? This is your database. Okay, so object to relational mapping. So this is called your ORM. So we can say, so this Hibernate is a framework, ORM framework, right, which map object of the database. Understood? So why it map? In order to persist data, query data, delete data, right? So for these operations, usually it does that. Then it allows you to, handles the low level SQL query. So this is the second, benefit we can say of using Hibernate. And then by using this framework, now we are not have to rely on JDBC code. So we are not going to write this much code to connect to the database. So when we are using this Hibernate framework, this will be taken care. So this is fine. Now let's understand this JPA. Okay. So what is this JPA? So JPA, if you talk about this JPA, okay. So JPA is nothing but your Jakarta persistence API. Okay. So earlier it was known as Java persistence API. Okay. So we are not using this term. We are saying JPA is the Jakarta persistence API. Okay. So we can say this is the very first or the only, standard API for ORM. So we understood what is the ORM, right? So this is the ORM, object to relational mapping. So we can say this JPA is, this is the standard API for ORM, right? So this is the standard API for ORM. So this is clear, right? But what does it mean? Like, what is this JPA exactly? So JPA is nothing but it's a, just specification. It's the specification, right? So specification, if you're talking about the specification in, Java, so that is related to the, we can say the interface, right? We just provide the specification what you need to do, right? So this is called, and in Java we call it interface. So we can say Java persistence API is the standard API for ORM. Okay, it provides the standard, specifications, or it provides the set of interfaces, right? So set of interfaces it provides, right, which require implementation. So it requires someone to implement this. Okay, so it requires someone to implement this. So who implements this JPA? So where this comes as Hibernate. So Hibernate, you can say, is the vendor. Okay, so it's one of the vendors, right, available in the market which implement this JPA. So default implementation of JPA is Hibernate. So there are different, so let's say we have, JPA specification, right? We have JPA specifications, and this specification is set of interfaces which require implementation, that you understood, right? So there are different vendors I told, right? So Hibernate is one of them, right? So there are other also available in the market. Okay, so what are those? So next one is your Eclipse link. Then we have Open JPA. Okay, also we have Data Nucleus to Data Nucleus. So these all are vendors, and there will be a lot more. So these are the vendors, right, which usually implement this JPA, right? So what is the benefit of using JPA? So main benefit is, we are not, logged to any specific vendor implementation. Let's say we have some project, right, which we implemented using Eclipse link. So Eclipse link we used, right? So this is your JPA implementation, right, as Hibernate. And let's say after some times, Eclipse link stopped support, right? So this is on top of this JPA. Just understand this one. So this is the implementation. So Eclipse link is the implementation on top of JPA, right? Now let's say this Eclipse link stop supports for the project, then we can easily switch to other, let's say Hibernate. Okay, so that's the main benefit of using, this JPA. So we can vendor, switch is very easy here. We can switch from one vendor to another, right? So this is the very, important benefit of using JPA. Now let's talk about, okay, we are talking about the framework. We are talking about the JPA, like Hibernate framework we talked about. We talked about the JPA and its, benefits. Where this JPA, where this JDBC gone then, right? Where is the JDBC now? So just understand this one, we can just tell JDBC is still the father. That JDBC is still there. Okay. The only thing is we have some framework, right, which is internally using this JDBC. Okay. So, this JPA or Hibernate all are related to JDBC itself. So when we, let's say we have the, any application here. Okay. Application means any, we have, let's say some object, right? So how using, implementation of the JPA, let's say I'm using JPA implementation, let's say Hibernate. Okay, we are using Hibernate, and we have the database. Let's understand this one in this way. So we have the, this database, and we want to map this object to the database. How we'll do this? So there's an intermediator or framework which will help you to map data to the database. And this Hibernate, it's a ORM tool, we can say, right? Object to relational mapping. So that's the model, standard model or web mapping, right? Which will help you to map the data to the object to the database. So what it will do? So we'll use this framework, right? Our application will use this framework. This framework, right? Hibernate or JPA internally using JDBC itself. Okay, so it's using JDBC itself in order to communicate with this database. Hope this is clear. So you understood how does JPA Hibernate related to JDBC, right? So we can say it's still the internal implementation, right? Or internally, Hibernate and JPA. When we talk about, we talk about Hibernate or JPA, just we can we can use Hibernate or JPA, right? Both interchangeably. We can use it. If you are talking about Hibernate, just understand we are talking about a JPA also. And if I'm talking about JPA, just understand this, I'm talking about a Hibernate as well, because the default implementation for JPA is Hibernate. Hope this is clear, right? If you have not subscribed my channel yet, please subscribe. Also like this video and share it with your friends. So in the next section, we'll start with setting up the MySQL database. Thank you so much.